Well, hey everybody, I'm here with Holly today. Hey Holly, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well, everybody. If you know me, I'm April Rashat, nutritional consultant. Holly and I have been friends for some time. And Holly, I'll kind of let you tell the story, but we've got a great quick interview that is just going to be chock full of tips because Holly is on her way to better health and always has been really on that journey, but something kind of switched recently. And she came to me looking for a little bit of help and accountability. And even though she's very, very well versed in all things yoga, nutrition, and whatnot, sometimes even coaches need coaches, right? So anyway, so Holly, why don't you just tell me kind of like what was the prompt for you when we ended up connecting?
Okay,
Like what was happening for you?
all right. So my story. I'll start by saying I turned 50 last year, and I've been going through my menopause journey. So menopause, along with my lifelong battle with accountability, despite my knowledge of health and wellness, despite all I know about nutrition, despite the ways I try to incorporate a healthy lifestyle, I kind of go in the up and down mode like a lot of folks. And, quarantine happened and I was straying from plan a little, maybe a lot more than I should have. And I went for my regular checkup and I was having heart palpitations and stress and life happens and all of that. And I got some pretty scary cholesterol numbers back. And, I had realized that I had been trending up, and despite many of the efforts or my perceived efforts, the lack of consistency and accountability was not working in my favor. So I don't like medication. Medication does not like me. I have bad reactions to medication. So I kind of got this wake up call of, okay, what are you going to do with heart history stuff in your family and not being able to take medication? And okay, you need to wake up and really focus again on where you need to be. And of course, you are one of my favorite people and gurus on all things nutrition, health, and all of that. And you've been incredibly helpful to me over the years. So I was like, who can help me with this journey? Especially because of the medication thing. So
yeah. And I mean, I don't think that I think your story is very relatable because I think a lot of people are in that mode. And I think you would probably agree, like a lot of people do make switches to doing things that are healthier, but until there's really that sort of like set target, like really some clarity on what you're doing, it's very easy to eliminate this, add this, right? Like start exercising, whatever, but we're still drinking a ton on the weekend. And when we really take an honest look at what's happening, and that can be hard to do too, when you do know so much about health and wellness, because it is hard to sort of take an inward look and say, maybe what I'm doing isn't fully working and maybe it's just time to tweak some stuff, right? So I was really aware, I mean, before this, can you kind of give people a sense of like what you were eating? Because nobody would look at your diet and say it was terrible, but tell them like the main idea of how you were eating and then where you kind of went off board.
okay, so I always choose organic when possible. I love to eat fruits, vegetables, all the good stuff. But I do know that I sometimes have a little bit too much of a good thing is not good. So, if I am making whole grain gluten-free oats, I might probably throw too many nuts in there. I may throw a little bit too much olive oil with the vegetables. I may, oh, well, I'm just having some cheese and crackers and wine with that delicious, wonderful, healthy vegetable meal and all that lean protein and all that kind of stuff. So I was doing things like that. Or, oh, I really, really just am in the mood for some chocolate and then eat like half the bar or, those kinds of things. So going off the rails for me isn't always like what going off the rails for other people might look like. But I convince myself it's okay because, well, it's only organic dark chocolate from Time and Season, the health food store, or it's gluten-free crackers from Whole Foods. How bad can that be with the good cheese down the street, So things like that. But I was always eating like my full-on fruits and vegetables smoothies in the morning, good lean salads with some protein on them in the afternoons, trying to put together like some lean fish, vegetables, maybe some rice, things like that I would eat for dinners. But, on occasion, oh, I'll have pizza on Friday night or, those kinds of things. So it's the little strays that added up to, instead of being an 80-20 life, to like, maybe a 40-60 and then a 30-70 or,
Right.
but still with healthy food. So convincing myself it was okay,
Yeah, I think that there's a few points there. So first, she was eating, clean, lean protein. She was eating vegetables. She was eating fruits, though probably limiting them. You were limited on grains, but when you did, it was the crackers, the pizza, the this, the that type of thing, the alcohol, the cheese, right, was in there. And then some other treats along the way, and then some overeating. And I mean, but people would look at that and be like, well, that's not that bad. And she has a smoothie every morning and whatever. Like, there's a lot of good that you were doing. So I think people might look at that diet and say, okay, like she's not really off board, but you were still having symptoms. I counted 11 out of the 14 I asked you whether or not you had, which we'll list in a moment. And that, so you just said stress and heart palpitations, that would make it 13. But we looked at, it was fatigue. I gave Holly a symptom chart and I just said to like measure and check off subjectively anything that was really an issue. So if you don't mind me just going.
No, go for it.
Fatigue, hip, knee, and shoulder pain, dizziness, bloating, high cholesterol, bumpy skin, numbing, hot flashes, irritability, slow to recover if you get, right, like injured or a cut or anything like that, or a sickness, and mental fatigue, right? The fogginess, the mental fatigue. So am I missing anything?
Nope.
But you were a good sleeper.
Very good sleeper, because, and I think it's because I'm really good with my supplements, and, you know, magnesium helps and things like that. But
yeah, so you had that going for you, which is great. But you felt like, I think for years, that like you should have dropped maybe more weight, right? And then now you're having all these issues, but when you and I talked, what was cool and interesting is instead of putting the focus on weight, which is, by the way, just a symptom like everything else on that list, right?
Right.
Is that your focus ended up being the cholesterol, because that was the thing you were like, I need the wake up call, right? So we did this whole symptom chart, but really when you came to me, you're like, I don't want to focus on weight. I don't want to focus on anything else necessarily. If that happens and I get healthier because I'm doing it in a healthful way, great. But that was really the thing, right? Was the cholesterol.
Correct.
All
Yes.
the lipid profile, the whole lipid panel is what we were like trying to take a look at. So to start out, what we did is Holly was awesome. She took before pictures. She did the symptom chart. I mean, it's really important to know where you're starting from. Am I right? And
Yes.
sometimes these things are happening to you and you're not even really like level setting to like know that they're happening. And then I sent her the measurement sheet. So she did her own measurements because she's got her own scale to do, you know, weight, body fat, you know, percentage, you know, visceral fat percentage, basal metabolic rate, all of that. And she did inches top to bottom. So we got a full, like, okay, now we've got a lipid panel, we've got pictures, we've got inches, we've got biometrics on the scale, and we have subjective symptoms to start with, right? Like that's basically where
we had everything, and including, like you said, the blood work too, which was like, yeah. I mean, for everything, the whole gamut.
Yep. And that was about a month ago.
Yep.
Okay, so we said, let's just do this for 30 days and let's see what's happening. Now you heard that she's interested in supplementation. So we took a look at her supplement regimen as it was, because we believe in food first, but supplements can definitely help. And so we took a look at that, and I basically put together like you know, I do this for a lot of clients when they're looking, and it's basically food, beverages, exercise, other things, and supplementation. And it's just sort of all the recommendations and the targets that you want to hit. So that gave you sort of the track to run on, correct?
Correct.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about your supplement regimen? And I do have it written here too, if you need, but.
Yes. Okay. So I already take certain isotonics because I have been taking them for years, love them. They're liquid, you know, they go with your blood system and everything. I don't do well with pills, as we've said. So I was already taking the OPCs, the vitamin D, magnesium, calcium, and prime joint support because I did injure a hip last year and there's a little arthritis happening. And then those are what I was already taking. And I also do fish oil as well. Yep. And you had recommended to me the Hepato Cleanse and Oxygen Extreme and the curcumin, which is stuff I'd actually tried before, but I just kind of underestimated their value. And in terms of like things like detoxifying your liver and things like that. And food sensitivity is another thing that I try to pretend I don't have as much of. And the symptoms kind of show the food sensitivity. And those things I think were going to be very helpful to get me back on track to really clean my body out of these things that were, you know, inflaming me basically. Right. And coenzyme Q10 also. And that is really good and for the heart stuff. So I took that, and then my digestive enzymes as needed. So
okay, perfect. So So that was sort of a list, and that may seem like a lot for some people, but that's, you know, Holly was already taking a bunch of those. And so when she mentioned the Hepatocleanse, Oxygen Extreme, and Curcumin, that's part of different manufacturers, but we call that a complete detoxification kit. And why that was recommended really is because your liver does produce cholesterol, A. B, when you're looking at, you know, food sensitivities, when you're looking at a sluggish liver and weight issues and all the other things, the symptoms that Holly was mentioning, your liver can really get overtaxed. So that, between the Hepatocleanse, the curcumin, and having that antioxidant protection, that was just a nice mixture to maybe give her something that she hadn't already been taking. Everything else she was taking is phenomenal for immune boosting and antioxidant support and like foundational nutrition. And that's the reason why we added those. So that was really good. Then it came to the food. So what was the big difference in terms of what I suggested for food that you followed?
Well, I realized that you gave a nice broad range of fruits, and I think I was limiting my fruits before because, you know, in this, I had always had it in my mind that, oh, you have to limit the amount of fruit because of the sugar. Well, you know, as if crackers are better, but, you know, we won't go there. You know, but, you know, as I was thinking, like, so I was blending more fruits together with my vegetables in the morning and being more mindful of not putting in things that would add extra fats. So you had suggested that I limit the fats to a certain amount per day and to not have any before noon. So I found new ways of playing with my smoothies in the morning, and it became fun for me. It was like, well, what smoothie can I put together this morning? And it actually became like a fun thing, that to the point where I was like, you know, I would even make
make a cookbook.
Yeah, I'm thinking, I think I'll do a smoothie recipe book. I'm actually thinking of it. So that was the number one thing. The fruits really, and especially this time of year when it's really hot, I find the smoothies to be really refreshing. Or if I don't have it in the morning, I give myself permission to kind of mix a nice blend when I really want something, like I'm looking for a snack. So that really, really helped. Adding starchy veggies twice a day, really, you underestimate how much that satisfies you to incorporate the starchy veggie with your vegetables. So I started to make really nice veggie bowls. So again, it was like, maybe the book should be called Smoothies and Veggie Bowls, because I started to just have fun with it, you know, between the cauli rices and the different types of things like that. And then the beans, every day you get to pick a bean. And I was like, again, it was like, okay, which thing can I interchange to make fun bowls and fun smoothies in the morning? And I did incorporate, because you suggested that I could incorporate a little bit of animal protein. I'm not a big meat person already, and I'm trying to go 100% plant-based. But this time of year, I do like some seafood. So I incorporated, you know, some salmon one day. And I think I maybe had a piece of chicken because there was one day we were out with friends. So, you know, so it was like being mindful of not overdoing certain things and just playing around with it, that I found to be fun and actually easier. It just made my life so much easier. It was like, I'm going to put all this in the fridge, and I'm going to, you know, every day, let's see what the fun thing to put together will be.
Yeah. So here's what we're going to do. So let's talk about the results first, and then we'll back into it, and I'll give you a little bit more clarity on exactly what Holly's targets were that she followed. So in case that will help anybody, you know, to kind of move forward. But this was the fun thing. So I just named all of those symptoms. Was there any improvement in any of those symptoms that I talked about?
They pretty much all went away. I think that, I mean, if I look at my chart, they all pretty much went away. The biggest thing for me that I noticed was my hot flashes were like coming like so often, and like now I barely even get a hot flash, which is like, that's, you know, like amazing insane, to me,
right? It's insane. It's so good.
And anybody, yeah, for anybody who's going through menopause, if you're not looking at your diet, I'm just going to tell you right now, look at it, because menopause can be hell if you're not really tuned in and targeting what you need to look at. And it's a game changer. So, and just the aches, the stiffness. I do yoga, and I love to do yoga. I'm yoga teacher training. I'm actually in that. And I'm finding that with the food sensitivity and that kind of stuff, I get really stiff, and I would try to get into my poses, and I can get into them very deeply. But when I was really inflamed, I was having a hard time, and I was really frustrated. That, like my last yoga teacher training weekend, I was like so flexible. I was like I didn't feel the pain, and it felt really good. So those are like the two top things. And then all the other list, the bloating goes away, the digestion issues, they all stop because I'm like, you know, I'm back in balance or getting back in balance. And that's only a month after a month. So
yeah. Awesome. So all of those symptoms that we listed, they went away. Then when we look at weight, unfortunately, she didn't have a scale for the first week. So we were so we know 100% that she lost 5 pounds, but when you look at the picture.
No, it's at least more. I want to say, because I went back and I actually looked at the first, when I got the new scale and got on it, I think it comes out to be a little bit more than 11 pounds.
Yeah, I was going to say.
From that first day to the last day, yeah.
Yes. And granted, you can lose 15 inches before you lose a pound, but it shows that you lost that weight. And it came off effortlessly, right? Like, I mean.
Oh my God, like it was like, and more effortlessly than so many things I had been trying over the last year or two.
Right. Okay, so then her body fat in 1 month came down just about 1%, and her visceral fat, which is the belly fat, which you can see in the pictures, came down 1 as well. So that's the deep-seated belly fat that marbles your organs, that gives you propensity for high blood pressure and heart attacks and cholesterol issues and all of that other stuff. So that was huge. But then we look at her blood work, which she sent me, and I swear I almost like started crying.
Me too.
Total cholesterol in 1 month, you guys, came down 60 points. 60 points. So 1 more month.
No medication. I took the medicine for like 2 days and got sick on it and just threw it away.
Unbelievable. Her bad cholesterol, the oxidized LDL, if you will, that cholesterol came down 42 points in 1 month. And her non-HDL cholesterol, so you want to keep your HDL, right? But that came down 42 points as well. So I was like thrilled. That was like the biggest 2 things from your lab work that just screamed at me. And I was like, holy cow, this is just so great. And listen, it's all mapped in science. Whole food, plant-based works, obviously. And it is, you know, heart disease and stroke are still the top killers in this country. It's like, if only there was a way that without medication and all this medicine, if you will, that we could fix it. And oh my God, we can. And it's called food, right? Like, it's just called food. So let's just talk real quick to round up about what her targets were. So for anybody's food plan, you don't have to go vegan and you don't have to go fully whole food plant-based. You heard Holly, she's not like hardcore, oh my God. But we definitely were moving her in that direction. And for a lot of people, they know me, I don't, you know, I'm a huge proponent of whole food plant-based, and for reasons that are based in health and science, because what's the point of being thin if you lost weight on keto, but you're going to die early or get cancer? Like, I don't understand what the point is. So, but it's a continuum, right? Anything that you do, if you ate processed foods and you drink a lot and you eat meat or whatever, but you had 4 more servings of vegetables today, you're putting yourself on a healthier track than you were yesterday. So I just want everybody to feel like they understand that. But from a food, her target was 6 to 12 vegetables a day. Do you think you hit that? Yep.
Yes.
The big,
maybe not 12, but,
yeah,
at least 10.
But I said minimum 6, and I said maybe half cooked, half raw, right?
Yep.
Then we did the fruits, and for the fruit, it was not to have any fruit fear, which is a really hard thing for a lot of people to have, right? And we understand that glycemic impact of foods can really affect your blood sugar, but there's no wing of the hospital that's like, I ate too many fruits, like that. There's just none of that. And as Holly said, we get these weird things like, oh, I can't have a peach, right? But I can have Mary's Gone crackers, like with cheese, like somehow, like, so we get messed up in our head when we start thinking these ways. So we had a target of like 4 fruits, which made you so happy. And I'm like, if you go over, who cares, right?
Right.
And it was the starchy vegetables. It was like 1 to 2 servings a day. So that could be like sweet potatoes, that type of thing. Good fats. We eliminated the oils. So this was where it was avocado, nuts, and seeds in their whole raw form, and no oils. And people ask me about that a lot. I did a post on it on the Facebook page, but the big thing about the oil is that it's processed, if you think about it, right? So we know we want to have minimally processed food whenever possible. And I still use oil on time to time, a little spritz on something or whatever, but I have learned how to really take that out. And Holly, I really do believe that that made a big difference for you.
Yeah. I mean, I still put a tiny bit like with dressing, but it was mostly balsamic.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah. Balsamic is great. It's just the oils, right?
Yeah.
So, and then it was the animal protein. And so I basically told her 6 to 10 ounces per week maximum. Do you think you stayed with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That or less, probably, I would have.
Yeah, and it really wasn't that hard at all.
Yeah. So it wasn't like, oh my God, I can't have, but it was like, oh, if I'm going out to a restaurant and I feel like having a nice piece of salmon, great. But she may not have had animal protein any other time during the week. And then the grains were 2 to 4 maximum servings per week, but they were either gluten-free oats, a whole grain brown rice, or quinoa, something like that, right? So there was a lot of variety. So you didn't feel deprived of anything, correct?
No, I mean, I actually did like a really great sprouted cereal from from the health food store a couple times in a week and still like lost 2 pounds. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
with blueberries on it, and that was fine,
Yeah. And it's just not overdoing it with the grains if weight is an issue or other things. But so it's really the elimination of oils. It's the elimination of dairy. It's definitely the elimination of pork, eggs, right? Most grains and processed foods in that regard. And then sweeteners and, the junk food or whatever. And you did amazing, but you feel full, right? You feel satisfied.
Yeah.
So if you have a pull to
I
a
felt
food,
really like I felt like I wasn't even like looking for food. It was like I felt totally satisfied.
yeah. And then I do think that it does make a difference too that you do yoga, but you also do some HIIT training. So you mix it up. You have some.
It up. Yep. And I danced one night to Prince Radio. It was like, I'm just into this, and I just danced for like an hour, but
And the movement is key.
Making it fun, and keeping it interesting every day with the exercise.
And then hydration, and you were on point with your hydration with your target of being half of your weight in ounces, right?
Yes, correct.
Right.
I got a specific bottle so that I would know how much water I was drinking.
And then you finally got on the celery juice train.
Yes, the celery juice was a life changer with my digestion. It really helped a lot, and also I think with that hydration first thing in the morning, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. So for those who have not yet hopped on the celery juice train, there's smoothies and juicing are two totally different things, but there's a benefit to juicing, especially when it's targeted. And celery juice straight up in the morning, like an entire bunch juiced with no pulp. It's not in the blender. It's in a juicer. Is amazing for your digestion because not only is it hydrating, but it boosts your hydrochloric acid levels. So that really helps to churn up the food and helps. So a lot of people who get the bloating and whatnot, I mean, if you read Medical Medium, and he'll talk about viruses being latent and stuff, which I believe, but without there being the science necessarily to back up everything that he says, which I do believe, but from the digestion standpoint, you really can't, you can't dispute it. It's really helped a lot of people. It helps to clear skin and things like that. And that all sort of starts in your digestion. So I am so proud of you. I'm so proud of you that you were accountable. I'm so proud of you. Every week you sent journals and you sent pictures and you took measurements, and she did it all on her own, you guys. It was just with a little bit of touching base and stuff like that. And I can't wait to have you see where she's going to be next month, because we decided we're going to do this again. So we're just going to take it 30 days by 30 days, right? So, and you did all the work. So congratulations.
I'm so excited.
So happy for you, and so happy. You just look vibrant and you look amazing. And I'm so glad that your results are what they are. Thank you so much for spending the time to talk to us today, because I'm sure you're going to help a lot of people.
I am so happy to do that. Thanks.
Thanks, Holly. Bye.